Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
It will not be here tonight. She has a previous commitment, but we're here.
And I'm 110% not multitasking. Huh? No, not.
Couldn't happen.
No. Please kill me.
All right. So, what are we talking about tonight?
Tonight is Michelle's topic: breaking barriers to make way for others.
Yay.
You know, I love this topic because while I forget the names, because names and my head don't meh, I'll never forget the Groomer to Groomer article I read close to 20 years ago, solid 17 years ago, about the groomer working out of a vet's office who, because she was a woman, wasn't allowed to speak to the clients because God forbid they know a woman is grooming their dog, had to enter and leave through the rear entrance.
What, in 1956? What?
So that I don't remember. I don't remember the year. And had a friend who was a barber and had to order her supplies through him because she couldn't even order her shit.
Wow.
Which is incomprehensible today because now we are such a female driven, not just oriented, driven and led community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably 99% female.
Mm-hmm.
So that stuck really hard in my brain that, and if anyone could find that ancient episode of Groomer to Groomer,
I'll find it.
it's probably online. So
I
we can
think
get
that
names
there are
to
a
people.
huge amount of things that we had to overcome just with working with veterinarians. I'll be truthful. I've worked in so many hospitals that, I've been told I'm just a stupid groomer and go back and wash some dog ASS to my face by a veterinarian. And so I just went back in my room and packed all my stuff and left and went to the next one. And I did it over and over and over again until I developed a name for myself that don't mess with that person. She's good. She can help your business. She can help your practice. Don't mess with me. And the number one thing I do when I go to a veterinarian to get a job or to work with them or whatever, and I'm like, do not treat me like I'm just a groomer. We'll have problems. I said, I'm a professional. I'm a colleague. I have different training than you. And I do respect all your schooling and all your diagnoses and all your knowledge, but I am not your peon. I'm not your little technician that has no name that works in the back. I'm not that.
So the vet I worked at, we had a new one start just out of vet school. And we had this 200-pound St. Bernard that we could not get. We didn't have adjustable tubs or anything. We're trying to get this really overweight St. Bernard in the tub, and it just isn't happening. So it was a nice day in Ohio. So we went outside, and it was, we decided to bathe him outside. He was a good dog. We're like, oh, let's just bathe him outside. And the new vet came out, and he's just standing there. And I look at him as we're just soaking wet, and this dog's having a blast, and we're having a good time. It was me and a bather. And I go to him like, why'd you go to vet school for 8 years? Wouldn't you want to become a groomer and get like this? And he's like, I want to owe the government 6 figures a year. And I said, okay, you wait till they start. I'm like, wait till you see them talk about my paychecks when I do. And sure enough, within a month, because everyone liked to talk, It got around really fast, and I got more respect after that. But it took that to get the respect, and
Yeah.
that's where it comes hard.
It comes
Okay.
down to money sometimes.
Mhm.
For me, it all started because I adopted Cricket. Cricket was a little starved, bald thing. And I took him to my vet, and he's starved and naked and and I'm like, yeah, he needs to be neutered and needs his teeth out and he needs this, and this. And so I need, his stuff and we need to book that here. And he's like, you adopted little naked, all rotten. And I was like, yeah. So we're gonna fix him up. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, I'm gonna grow his hair back. He's like, and I'm like, yeah, okay. So 3 months later,
Watch.
I brought him back, and he was a little fuzzball, and he was so happy. And he said, "Oh, well, nutrition." I said, yeah. See, I know how studies work. So one variable at a time is I kept him on the same food he had been eating at the shelter, and I didn't change that. Uh-huh. And he was like, wait, what? And I'm like, yeah. And I brought you the portfolio of photos of the weekly changes. And I said, now, nutritionally takes 4 to 6 months for nutrition to, and he's like, yeah. And I said, okay, I've had him for 3. So, and
And I've been feeding
the same food. And he had been eating that food 6 months prior because he got dumped off during COVID into a parking lot of a closed supermarket. So he's been on this food now for 9 months. Now, if that were to have had any effect, that would have had an effect before now. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. So he's like, nice work. And then since then, anytime a cat's been dry or their hair is falling out for this, that, or the other reason, or there's a whatever, he just goes, yeah, no, you need Angie. Angie, you go. He's from China. Angie, go fix. Angie, go fix. Go see Hannah. She tell. It'd be good. Go see Angie. And so they say, Doc said you need to see him. And I'm like, all right, how soon? And she's like, do you have anything this week? I'm like, no.
Bring him in.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. They're going to have to do it like 5 o'clock. And they're like, okay.
They're like, you fix?
Yeah. And they come in and they're like, and then so I do the things. And then they go back to Doc and they're like, she fixed it. He's like, yeah, I say, and she fixed that. And that's just that. And that got around to other vets. So now they'll call me up and say, we have a sedation groom. So now I contract at veterinarians to do sedation grooming in their clinic on my days off.
When's that?
Because,
Days off?
Days off. Yeah.
Days off, huh?
It's my day off.
You mean on Flugel Day?
Yes. It's my day off, so I'm going to go work somewhere else. And so I go down there and I shave the cat. And then, but I tell them, this is I $100 an hour for as long as it takes, whatever it is. And if it's over half an hour, it's another hour. And they're like, yeah, whatever. And so they're fine with my pricing. They deal with the things, and there's a vet tech there. And then the vet tech is just like, you're crazy. I wouldn't want to do this. You're nuts. And I'm just like, this is fun. Wee!
I wouldn't want to do what they do, truthfully.
Right.
I've been party to quite a few procedures that I don't really want to do.
Yeah.
You know what? And this is a whole separate conversation, but I like being able to say, well, this is what you ask your vet. I don't want to be the final, should we put this pet down now? I don't want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
I don't want to have the, I can't afford to treat this pet. It's getting put down. I don't want to have any of those
I
conversations.
will say, I will
So,
say vet
yeah.
grooming, there was multiple euthanasias that I was a part of because they were my clients and I couldn't say no at all. Like I like, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't want to
So,
either. I don't
no.
want to say no to that. I will absolutely be there. I'll be there
Mhm.
for them when they can't be there. I'll be there with them in
Mhm.
the room if they need to. If they need me to carry the dog to the back, I will absolutely
Mhm.
shoulder a huge entire dog on my shoulders like a deer and take it to the back. I absolutely will do that.
Mhm.
I've done it. I've met them at the vet
Mhm.
just for my clients. They're
Mhm.
not, they're like, oh, so he can say go. And I have gone
Mhm.
to say goodbye, to be there with them because all of the canine clients I have, I've had their whole lives. So
Yep.
I've seen them once a month
Mhm.
for 13, 14, 16, 18, 22 years. And, if they want me there, okay,
Mhm.
I'll find a way to make it work, whatever day it is.
Mhm.
And it's like, I'm blessed. I have an amazing assistant who just goes, and I'm like, Ange, I got to do this. And she's like, right, okay, I'll move this around, I'll make this work. And then she says, okay, and I booked an extra half an hour for crying. Thank you.
Absolutely. She
Oh,
knows
yeah.
how it's done.
She knows me.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to need an extra half an hour for crying
Mhm.
because I love them. They're
Mhm.
my friends. I've known them their whole
Absolutely.
lives. I look forward to seeing them, even the naughty ones.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I love them.
Yeah, and I think all the stories that just we could share, the four of us,
Oh,
multiplied by kabillions of other experiences. There used to be a time when you couldn't go into a veterinarian and just groom like we groom today.
Yeah.
Every single one of us that has worked with a vet and been told, shut up and get the F back and wash some dog, all of us, in the way we treated that moment and the way we treated those veterinarians that did that, if we stand up for ourselves, we make it better
Mhm.
for the people that are coming, up behind us. And I
Mhm.
think
Where do
that's
you
one of the most
And
important things to do in everything that you do. If you are an innovator, if you are a creator, if you see things outside of the box, don't be afraid to use those practices, even though everybody's calling you weird or I've never seen that before, because you're going to make it a little bit easier for that next person that has your same vision or close to it to be able to go in there and do it a lot easier than it was for each of us.
Well, and I'm a better owner, right? Like I knew how I don't want to be treated and I know how I don't want to treat my employees.
Yes.
Yep.
So like I'm a better business owner. I'm a better person for all of those experiences as
Mhm.
well. So, but yeah, oh, I could imagine, yes, like all the stories that we would have, but right, keep on, you have to make it easier for the future, right?
Mhm.
And they can have their own problems. They don't have to have the same problems we had. They'll just have
Exactly, because
different
there
ones.
will be more.
Yeah, there's always, that's what
and
Karina
and
and I always say. We're like, we did all these things, all these mistakes,
Mhm.
learn from them and make your own new mistakes, right?
Mhm.
Like don't make
Yeah.
ours, make new ones.
yeah.
Right, right.
And I'm going to even take that a step further and say that since we're talking about breaking down barriers for the next group, I'm going to apply that to how we treat our
Yeah.
bathers and how we train
Mhm.
our bathers. Because I started as a bather in a big box pea store. And I know they vary from store to store and how the bathers get treated and what they're expected to do. In the particular store I started at, um, y'all familiar with the phrase work like a rented mule?
Mhm.
Done it, been there. I escaped.
That's kind of
Yeah.
how it was. And the key, and I will never forget this, it was one of the older groomers who was known for being slow and never bathing her own dogs. And it was late at night and I had had my dogs to do. Like, it's not like I was, slacking with my thumb up my butt all day. And there was a Shih Tzu that hadn't gotten bathed yet. And it was like 8 o'clock at night or something. And the store closed
my
at
gosh.
9. Like it was after 7:30 p.m. and the store closed at 9 and the dog hadn't been
What
bathed.
time did it get there?
I don't even remember.
Was it like recently or like
No,
Probably in the morning.
no, it had been there a bit.
Some crazy.
We had a 3 to 4 hour window.
okay? So it was like 3
So,
o'clock
but it
ish, 2, 4.
I don't even remember.
You need details,
Probably,
evidently.
probably around
Okay.
5.
All right.
Because that 5 to 9 is the 4 hour window. So it probably got there around 5. So sometime 7:30 or after, the groomer realized that this dog hadn't been bathed yet. Now, had she told anyone, me, to bathe the dog? No, she just realized it was there and hadn't been bathed yet. And she goes, well, somebody's got to wash this dog. Now, how many people do you think were in the grooming salon at
Just
that
you.
time?
You and her.
Myself and the other groomer.
That's a very interesting way to count.
It's the European way.
It's the European way.
I'm new to that.
So,
It's been a while.
you know.
since I was there.
It's either from France or from like the East End of London. Anyway, I proceeded because
Don't back check that.
I
folks.
was-
Go ahead.
I just walked out. I just went to the ladies' room because I wasn't crying in grooming.
Because there is no crying in
So
grooming.
I just
Right.
there
And if
is
you
no
do cry
crying in
during grooming,
and
you have to be skilled enough to groom through your tears.
Yes.
Yes.
you have to be skilled enough to groom through your tears or time it well enough that you're grooming while you're bathing.
Mhm.
It's
So you're
wet.
just washing and your salty tears are falling on the dog. It's a thing. So apparently I found out from one of the managers later. So I went to the bathroom. I was there a solid 10, 15 minutes to collect myself. Because you know those cries where you cry and you think you're fine and then you think about it and you start crying
Frustration.
again?
Yeah.
It was it was
Stress.
one of
Yeah.
those cries. So I took a while to pull my shit together and splash water on my face. And I just walked back into grooming and took the dog and washed and dried and prepped the dog. So apparently, while I was in the bathroom, one of the managers walked in and went, "Where's Chris?" And the groomer had enough self-awareness to go, "I don't know. She just walked out. I think she quit." And I just walked back into grooming and washed the dog and continued. But I will never forget that.
Yeah. That would leave an impression.
Mhm.
I must say, most of what I have learned about treating my employees, I have learned from bosses that did it the opposite. And I said to
Yes.
myself, I will never make another person feel that way that I
Mhm.
feel right now.
Mhm.
I will never do that to someone else. And that's kind of how I set up my whole salon. It's
But
like,
having said that, Angie, I've had employees that you just can't reach. There are those that
Oh,
just
yeah.
think you're the worst
Mhm.
Yeah.
and you are just terrible and you ruined their whole life and it's all because of you. No matter how
Oh.
well you're the best laid plans.
Mhm.
It just
no, it's true. It's
sometimes
true.
you can't
I mean,
reach some people.
that is true.
Okay. This almost relates, but I have to tell this story because I know how I was treated as a bather. So I had a bather who swore that I tricked her into washing a dog for me because there was, sometimes when you're a different big box pea store, sometimes you have to play Jenga with the dogs and you have to move them around. So I had an English Springer that was black and white, and she had an American Cocker that was in for a bath that was black and white. So the Cocker was in a bottom crate, And when the Springer came in, there was no other bottom crates available. So I'm like, oh, let me move the cocker to a top crate and I moved the paperwork. It's not like I left the
Sure.
paperwork. She just saw a black and white dog in the spot she put the cocker and washed that dog. But I did that on purpose. to get
Okay,
her
as
to
someone
wash
who's
her
never
dog.
worked corporate, I don't
Uh-huh.
understand. Like when I have a bather, they just bathe the dogs.
Uh-huh.
So,
Uh-huh.
like, what? How does the corporate structure?
Yeah. What
that
is the
they get-
parameters of what's the bather's job?
Well, in this particular one, the bathers did bath dogs. They did bath dogs. If the groomer asked and they had availability, they could do the groomers. They could wash the groomers' dogs, but they had the ability to say no.
Okay, how do they
They're like,
get
no, we got
paid?
14. They got paid.
So, do groomers make less of a percentage if a bather bathes their dog?
No,
I think it
no.
depends on the
make-
individual franchise.
I want to say bathers get paid
Yeah.
hourly.
Okay. So why wouldn't you just have a
I could
bather
be
bathe all your
wrong.
dogs?
Mm.
Why
What
wouldn't
was
you
that?
just have a bather bathe all your dogs?
Because the bather gets paid hourly and does the bath dog. So the company wants the bather busy doing bath
Mhm.
dogs.
Mm.
So the company wants the bather to do all of the bath dogs because they don't get commission, they get hourly.
So that's like a bread and butter dog, basically.
Mhm.
That they run them through,
Exactly.
teach
So
them how
that's
to
a
trim
bread and
nails
butter dog for
badly
the
and jab
corporation.
wet cotton balls in their ears, and we're good to go. That's what they
Yeah.
want.
So
Yeah.
one of the comments, bathers hourly, groomers 50%, and groomers can tip a bather. And usually the way it worked is if the groomers asked a bather to wash a dog, they would split the tips.
Okay. I've never worked corporate, so
So,
I don't have any experience with. I've
yeah.
always
So
had
she thought she
Ichi,
was done. Yeah. She thought she was done and she still had a bath dog to do because, there's no size difference between a
but a
Springer and an
cocker's not a
English.
bath
She didn't,
dog. I don't understand.
it was kept in a
Okay.
shortcut.
All right. So
It
just
was, it
dogs
was
that
a,
get in like face, feet, and sandy, regardless of breed.
Yes.
Okay.
correct.
It's-
Regardless of, actually, bathers don't do face, feet, and
Okay.
They
sandy.
just bathe.
Bathers don't do face, feet, and sandy. If the dog came in, actually, they were supposed to do sandy, but let's not confuse the facts. Regardless of breed, if a clipper didn't go on them, clippers or scissors didn't touch them, the bather was supposed to do them.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it happens. I had one that was so good at what she did, but she could not be professional with her language. And it was very difficult to deal with her, but she was so good. She listened so hard that we actually took her to Pasadena, and she stood up in a class about skin and coat that wasn't mine and told the speaker and all the guests that she wasn't doing it right because her manager said different. Me. I was like, "Oh my God, that's so embarrassing."
I need
Yeah,
names
but
after
she
we
was so
stop
good
recording.
that she had bathed everything, and right when I went to get one of the dogs to finish it, she had already taken it and rebathed it again. Like you're like, oh, I just saw a dog and he looked kind of frumpy, so I bathed them. She was incredible. If she could have been more professional, she was going places. But she's an amazing girl, but she was very young. And when we're young, sometimes we have trauma
happens.
and we can't deal with it, and
Yeah.
it just happened. But I do have fond memories of her.
I have that. Her twin, who is exceptionally good with language, but as Chris knows, has done that very thing. And I was standing next to Chris when she and my new groomer came out to tell me how they stood up in class and told the speaker, no, that's not how this works because Angie said it works like this. And Angie knows because she took the class and did the things. And it's not like that at all. None of this is correct. This is this and this is this. And I was just like, oh my
Yeah.
And
Have
I'm
a bit of
100
decorum.
I'm torn.
my God.
I'm as a speaker, I'm torn because on one hand, if that's your employer, you're like, oh my fucking God, why don't you just shut up and talk about that outside of work? But
Absolutely.
there's a part of me, the little devil on the shoulder, that's going, as a speaker, you better be able to defend your shit.
True.
And that's
true.
the other thing.
So I'm like, oh,
Because it was on the tail end of a question.
Mhm.
yes.
I guarantee it was in the middle of her presentation. Guarantee it. She just stood
Watch-
up and then talked for 15 minutes, and the speaker couldn't get control back. I promise you, that's how it was. It was
Watch,
horrible.
because I said that I will
Right?
will be heckled like throughout this year. I see this happening 5 times.
Well,
Yeah.
that's happened to me, actually. That's happened to me. Is people say, well, I have bred rabbits and I stop them right there. And I understand that. But you do have to back up your, and I do.
Mhm.
And that's the thing, is that when they come to me with questions and say, yeah, but and what if X, Y, Z, Q, P, LMNO, Z?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I go, okay, we're going to go through this step at a time. So this to this to this to this, right? I have you here. Yes. So your question is with this. Yes. And I do the same thing as I pull out the books and I go, all right, so since we know this, this, and this, then can we then extrapolate this, because it's a logical conclusion? You with me? Yes. Because it's a very
Yes.
small step.
Mhm.
So now we're going to take that and add that to this. And they go, uh-huh. And you get, and they're like, oh,
Mhm.
yeah, okay.
But out to all the people that are going, and especially the younger people who are just fangirling or fanboying over the person that taught you or your mentor, give grace to the speaker and address those issues after the seminar to get your
Yeah.
answers, because man,
Yes.
it's really hard enough to be up there saying your piece.
Yeah.
Absolutely allow them to speak to their audience, because
Yes.
they're 9 times out of 10 getting paid or half paid
Yep.
to be there.
Yeah.
And then when you open for questions, make sure it's one of the last questions, or when it's all over, stand in line and ask your question and go from there.
Yeah.
Just because I can't even imagine. People ask you questions and you should be able to defend it in under
Yeah.
30 seconds and move on to the next question. But I guarantee it wasn't like that. I guarantee it wasn't like that.
I
And
have
they
had
said,
aggressive students
yeah.
because when it comes to rabbits, there's the breeding showing,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's pet grooming.
Mm-hmm.
And they are very different worlds. They are
Right.
worlds apart. Pet grooming has nothing to do with spinning and collecting wool and dyeing, and none of that. My book and my class is very specifically for pet rabbit groomers,
Mm-hmm.
pet rabbit owners.
Mhm.
Right.
And I reiterate that in the class. And I say, I understand that when you show, that is what you do. If you notice, flip, 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 flip. to the side, this is for pet rabbit groomers and
Mhm.
pet rabbit owners,
Yes.
because that's what it's centered on.
Mhm.
So that's a whole different world. And I respect what you do, but by proxy, I ask that you respect that my world is very different from yours, and they are not the same thing.
Yeah. And I will reiterate and say, as a speaker, a lot of times I feel like I have hours of information I'm trying to pack into a 1-hour class
Mhm.
and
Oh my
leave
God, yeah.
time for questions. Like my ergonomics class, I'm completely reworking. I have enough and will have enough material for a 4-hour class. My 1-hour ergonomics class, there's a lot I'm not getting into. I'm saving for the longer version just so we can fit it in. So, and I have to be mindful and respectful of the speaker after me who is coming into the room.
Mhm.
So if
It's
if
a
a
lot of
speaker
pressure. It's
says,
more pressure
it's a
than you
lot
would
of
know.
pressure. So
Mhm.
if a
Yeah.
speaker says, like, if you have that kind of question where you're like, they're wrong and I need to ask this in front of everybody, that is your right. And I respect that. And I feel like I should be able to defend myself. However, I also want you to know if they say that's a question that's going to take more of an in-depth response, let's meet at the back or in the hall after the class. It's
In the
not a
hall.
blow off. It's not a blow
Right.
off. It's
Mm-mm.
them
No.
actually wanting to give your question the time it deserves and acknowledging that they don't have it in the super limited space they have.
Mhm.
On average, the time it takes me to get from the classroom door after my class is finished back to the trade show is an hour.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's 5 steps away.
Mhm.
But I'm fielding questions and I'm answering questions and I want to answer them completely and fully. And I want to make sure everybody has all the information because I don't want to leave them with peace.
Mhm.
I want to give them the complete picture. And if they're not understanding or not seeing, I want to help them fit those puzzle pieces together. And then they go, and I know the second they get it because you can see it and they go, oh, that light hits in their eyes. And I'm like, yes, gotcha. Next. Who's next? And in Atlanta, when I did my salon sanitation, it actually took me 2.5 hours to get from the classroom door
Mhm.
back into the trade show.
Mhm.
And when I finally made it back to the booth, I was like, Tommy, I'm really sorry.
Never apologize for being a resource for people who you just taught for an hour.
I know,
Never apologize for that.
but I
They know
finally
that you are
helped them
out
at the
there
booth.
selling your wares there. You're selling your,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you
But
know.
pulling it back to topic for a second, even though it doesn't seem like it, every time you speak, every time you treat your employee or your coworker better than you were treated, you're taking a step for the next generation of
Yep.
groomers. And you don't have to be like a name everybody knows and at all the trade
Mhm.
shows. No, all you have to do is be decent to the people around you.
Mhm.
And you are furthering our industry and our profession.
Yep.
So that in itself is breaking barriers for the next groomer. Speaking to your clients in an
Mhm.
educated manner
Yeah.
Mhm.
is
Matters.
making it easier for their next groomer, because even if they're not your client till the day they die, they're going to treat their next groomer a little differently if
Mhm.
they see
They're going to
you as
see the difference.
they see the
Mhm.
difference and
If
see you as
someone who's
educated.
not educated, you're like, okay, we'll do a cut on your dog. You know,
Right.
it's my next struggle, my co-struggle with all the other things that I'm doing is to start calling them trims.
Trims.
Yeah.
Haircut. I want a haircut. You know, how about a trim on my poodle or a trim on my Shih Tzu or a trim?
What type of
It's a
style
trim.
would you like today?
Yes.
Mhm.
What type of style would you like today? Do we want a bath and blowout? Because they know blowout
Mhm.
instead of, do you
Ooh.
want just a bath? Oh, do we
Why
want a
don't we do
blowout?
that? Why don't we do that in the future? Different terminology.
Ooh, yeah, we can do that.
Topic for
That's
next
actually
week. I'm writing.
Yes. Oh, next week I'm going to be on a cruise. Hopefully I can be here.
No.
Hopefully, you will be so busy that you won't be here because you're
Yeah,
on a cruise.
seriously. You're on
I'm
vacation.
Yeah.
gonna
As
rope.
much as we will miss you, Denise,
I'll rope Karina into it. It's also listen. It's the Barkley cruise. We're working anyway,
Oh, okay.
so you know it's
Okay,
the
Oh,
that's
Barkley
fair.
cruise.
that's a
And
work.
by the way, did
Yeah.
you all see the side eye I gave Angie at the working on her days off? Did anyone catch the side eye?
Okay. On my birthday, I actually took the entire day off. If you notice, you sent me messages I did not respond to until the next day. I
Mhm.
left the phone downstairs. I watched television, sat on my fanny, and watched TV, like hours of TV. By the way, Cake Dynasty is awesome.
So
I watched
what you're
the whole
telling me,
series. I took the entire day off.
Yeah,
and
that's
I
hard to
say this
believe,
with
but I'm so
love, and
glad
I
you did it.
understand where you're coming from. So this is sort of tongue in cheek, but what you're telling me is one day out of 365. So you get one day every 364 days you take off. Is that what you're telling me, Angie?
Unless it's
No,
leap year.
her birthday just so happened to be on Flugel Day. That's
That is the whole thing. I take one day off. You have to understand, I have students that are asking me for my help and my advice, and they're in the thick of it.
Mhm.
And I can't ignore that.
You
Look,
can't not
that
respond to that.
Monday.
Like,
I
okay,
I
I'm on the second step and my
understand.
hands are wet and the phone is next to my ear. And what do I do next? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if a student, I will do a Zoom, a FaceTime, or whatever.
Yeah.
Somebody's got a bunny and they're like, Angie, oh my God, help.
Mhm.
I'm in. And if it takes me 3 hours, it takes me 3 hours. Because if I don't do that, if you notice, those of you who follow many of the boards, 4 rabbits died after grooming in the month of December.
Mhm.
4. And I got tagged in all 4 posts.
Mhm.
And the groomers didn't understand what they did was wrong and that they were, in fact, the reason those animals died.
Mhm.
Because they were. Because it was improper handling and lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
And so if a groomer needs me on my day off, I'm like, okay, everything else is, what do you need? How long? I don't care how long it takes.
Mhm.
I have gone into getting my haircut and talked to someone through a rabbit groom while getting my haircut. And I have known my hairstylist for so long. She was just like, nah, it's fine, Ange. You're good. Because I also groom her pets. And she's
Mhm.
like, no, honey, you go. You go. You do your
Mhm.
thing.
Well, and she's got an inside scoop on what we actually
Uh-huh.
deal with behind the scenes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So she's just like, no, you do that. So yes, I don't really have days off because I also teach salon sanitation and people are dealing with sanitation issues. And I, I don't
I'm
have
not
days off.
I'm gonna give you mild stink eye, but that's it because I'm not gonna be 100% hypocritical because you know how I spent a couple hours of today. So
Yeah.
that's all I'm gonna say.
So na boo boo.
So
Mhm.
I'm just going to say try for some things.
Yes.
And I'm gonna
I
have
do.
to
I
jump off in a
usually
minute.
That's usually why I'm up so late, is because from 1 to 3 o'clock in the morning, that's me time.
Mhm.
And first
That's
of
when
all,
I get to talk to Angie. Are you kidding me?
No, I know.
yeah,
Us night owls.
Chris was messaging me at 2:30 in the morning last night because she knew I'd be awake.
Uh-huh.
Because that's me time. That's
Mhm.
when I get to play my computer games, and I get to play Civ 6, and I get to take over the world, and so I do take the time for myself, but it's not until the rest of the world has gone to bed
And
and
you can go.
there are no problems to solve,
Mhm.
and I can just go.
Well, it
And
helps that your metabolism and your body just works that you can't get more than 4 hours sleep. Like you function, that's your
Yeah,
normal.
my eyeballs just pop open and go, bing.
Time to make the donuts,
Time
right?
to make the
We
donuts.
have slept for 4 hours, so
Yeah.
GTFO.
Whereas if I sleep for less than 8 hours, I'm cranky for a solid half hour when I get up.
Mhm.
I just,
Yeah,
My
I can't
preferred
make my
sleep
eyes
is
close
12 hours.
anymore. I sleep for like 2 hours and I just wake up and it's so annoying because I'm tired. Trust
Mhm.
me.
well, I'm not tired. I'm just like, now when I get up for the first half an hour, I'm like, ooh.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And anybody that's like was at the Airbnb at Hershey, they're like, ooh,
Mhm.
Oh,
you know,
see, I'm the
and I was like,
annoying morning person. I wake up and I'm like 4 o'clock in the morning going to CrossFit and coffee. And yeah, I'm that person.
That's my husband, and that is super annoying. He wakes
I
up
am.
like
I
this.
get it. Yeah.
Jumps out of the bed. He's like,
Ah! Oh, yeah. Like my husband will come out and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do
and he's just
today?
like,
And he's like,
no.
like, here, can I have another cup of coffee? Thanks.
10 minutes, give me 15 minutes after I wake up and 10 minutes after I walk in the door.
yeah,
Don't
no,
talk to me during that time.
half an hour after I wake up, we can have a conversation. But until then, leave me alone with the doctor.
That's where you have your doctor's appointment. for
I
your
have
mental
our
health.
doctor's appointment first thing every morning. And we have our little chat. And then, okay. And once enough caffeine has entered my bloodstream, then I'm like, oh, okay. Now I can human. But it takes that half an hour for me to go, "Ugh."
All right, my
Because-
precious ladies, I have company from out of town. I'm going to have to catch out.
Go.
I was too, because you see me dancing, right?
Yeah.
Chris,
Probably should.
message me later.
Oh,
Okay.
we got your stuff. The Groomers Ball officially has for the swag bag stuff from all for
The
no,
herbal
the
apothecary dewdrops.
apothecary.
Oh.
My brain today.
All
that's
right.
all stressed.
Here's the weird facts, and we're signing out with this.
Okay.
Angie's
Okay.
Weekly Weird Fact.
All right. So bats are the only flying mammal that are also the chief pollinator for more than 300 species of fruit. So if not for bats, we would have no bananas, avocados, or mangoes.
Angie's Weekly Weird Fact.
And
I
that's your
love
weird
sky
fact for
puppies.
this week.
I love bats. I think they're so cute.
Bats are awesome.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
love bats.
Thanks for coming, everybody. We will see
Bye,
you all next
guys.
week. Be well. Stay safe.